I feel like so weird to say this because I do have very like strong friendships, or what I imagine to be strong friendships, because I've never experienced anything else.
A little different than all the rest.
When I was in high school and I didn't have the strongest bond with people, but I still felt like I was part of a group, there was a time where I was just like, I didn't really think about the friendship. I didn't get it as existential, I guess. Maybe it's like age. Maybe I was a young person that felt differently or like prioritized different things at the time. I definitely never called anyone my best friend or even my friends, because I grew up in a very low income household, like very poor, and my mom didn't allow us to bring our friends because the house was not nice or we didn't have really nice furniture. It feels really weird to say this, but I think friendships have been feeling hard. Like, I'm wondering if anybody feels this way, like you have planned something, it still feels forceful to get out of the house. You're out of the house, you hang out with your friends, it doesn't feel like enough time together, but even after you've spent time together, it doesn't feel like your cup has been filled. And I think part of this is like that we have to go through this like spy-like coordination just to find a date that works. Not even like where we're going, what are we doing, but like what day works for you. I have a friend. We've been trying to get together since July. I came back from Europe in July and she's like, yeah, let's link up. I said, okay. So we've been trying to find a time to meet for 2 months. It's almost October. This is insane. And I mean, maybe this is like a certain type of lifestyle as you hit adulthood and your priorities shift. But it seems like everyone is tired from the perpetual hand of capitalism and exploitation, and they're at their jobs, so all they want to do is like rot in bed at the end of the day. You know, that's hard to argue with, because I also want to do that most of the time. One of my friends who honestly like hears the majority of my grievances, except they're not as structured or as edited as a video essay is. And one of the things I was telling her was like, it just feels so weird. Like, it feels so weird, bro. I don't know what to do. I found myself like withdrawing from people and isolating myself, and I was like, oh, ugh. Like, it's very contradicting from the ask that I'm putting out there, which is like, guys, hang out with me. And like, I'm still isolating myself over here. Like, make it make sense. The world that we're living in and like our emotions are like continually going to be contradicting. I don't know if this coffee actually works. Like, I feel like this is fake. So friendships feel weird. I made a group of friends when I was in high school, and I moved to this country, and I was like a new immigrant kid. It was getting out of your comfort zone in all the ways, right? I didn't speak the language really. I like took English classes. I watched movies. That's how I learned English. All of a sudden, I have like more than 2-3 sets of clothing, because my dad took us to Target as soon as we came. Like, he saw we had not a lot of clothes with us, and he was like, let's do some shopping. And we shopped there, and I was like, this is luxury. This is literally luxury. And so, you know, the Maslow hierarchy of needs or whatever, like security, food, hot shower, all those things are like basic bare minimum shit, and I never grew up having the majority of those things. Coming here and having the 3 or 4 parts of the pyramid be complete or be responded to in as less than 6 months, I was like, all right, this is weird. Don't get me wrong, that thing was perfect. Like, my dad and I didn't have the best relationship. He was still trying to figure out how to raise girls. He was trying to figure out how to like mesh his life with our life, and vice versa. For the first time, I could start to think about friendships. And I was going to school in like the suburbs of Minnesota, and I was like, I'm learning English for the first time, like live. Doing that, I am also making friends. Like, I'm making like long-lasting relationships. Like, obviously I didn't know it at the time, but I was like, I have to talk to these people to learn English. I never had to do that before. And so I was just like, all right, let's start forming that. Because I didn't have any of the other priorities that are often associated with, I guess, discomfort back from where I was from, my priorities shifted. My priorities started becoming like, ooh, I really like this friend. I like what we're talking about. And then that was complete. And I was like, ooh, I do like having this friend, but I wish we had more things in common. I found myself hiding certain things from this friend. And this friend was a really nice person, but very raised very conservatively, very fundamentalist. And her family even welcomed me into their to their family. They were very kind, and I even went to this fall fairs that they used to go to. Very suburban Minnesota activities. I ate that shit up. I was like, okay, get me there. I was new. This was all new to me. I was looking at things from a critical lens. I was a new immigrant trying to assimilate and acclimate as much as possible to this new living situation. Not until I got into 15, 16, I started to notice that my interest definitely divorced from my friend's interest. My friend was interested in she was interested in Neopets and just specific things that I got into it too, because I was like, I want to have things in common so that we can talk about it. Her family didn't allow her to watch Harry Potter or Twilight because they thought they kind of associated with a cult. Those are the main things that are taking my attention. Don't get me wrong, I was definitely not like other girls, but also I was consuming hella mainstream stuff that was popular for 50, 60-year-olds. I think I was reading The New Moon, and I was like, everyone's talking about New Moon. My friend is so weird. I started to have all these consciousness about our friendship, our relationship started to get a teensy bit existential. My friend ended up being homeschooled for the next year, and during that time I formed really strong friendships with there was this specialty college prep class that we were a part of, and it was mostly brown and black people in that class. And this was probably the first time where I was in a specialty space with brown and black people, and all I had was vibes. I was just coming in I am trying to be the best student. I am trying to do 5 million extracurricular activities. I don't have the best relationship with my body, but nobody has to know that. I met my best friend in that class. She was so different than someone that I usually would talk to. A lot of the people that I kind of welcomed me, and they're like, oh my god, yeah, you're not like other girls, were a lot of white girls that were kind in a lot of ways, but then also very different than me in a lot of ways. The thing was obviously feeling off, and I think what was feeling off was the fact that a lot of our personalities did not mesh well. Our identities were different. The way that we came up into the world is very different, so we didn't have a lot to talk about things. My friend came also similarly from a low-income housing. Her mother is a badass, and she has not the best family dynamic, but she's we live in. And then I met another friend who also felt kind of like an outcast. The girl that I met in that specialty class ended up introducing us to this other guy who was also a weird kid, an outcast kid in a suburban Minnesota, which is it's not hard to be an outcast. It was just oh my god, I have a fucking crew. I'm in a crew. This is insane. I remember we turned 16 or something, and one of our friends ended up getting her license, and she was like, I'll pick you up. And I was like, oh my god, I'm living like the movies. Okay. And I was so ecstatic. Oh my god, I was over the moon. This is what people talk about when they talk about life being amazing. As someone who's in a people-pleasing embodiment, and every time I run into someone who did not love everything about me, who did not like me, or who just was not the most enthusiastic person about me, I would be like, damn, I really failed. And every relationship, every friendship, every intimacy that I have developed with my friends didn't seem that important in that moment. All that matters is that person did not like me. I went to college, and continually I saw like my friends morph and find new friends, and we're still like a crew, but like we all had like different priorities. One of my friends, she like was getting in like serial relationships, and she was like locked in. And then my other friend and I were just like very like, oh my god, like what is she doing, like very much like, what, like why isn't she spending time with us, like very salty. And then our male friend, he was very like going through it, like life, family, and he was still there, but he was just kind of like distant. When I got to college, I ended up becoming closer to a group of other friends who like first gen and second gen immigrant women, who we bonded over the fact that like everything is like existential as fuck. Like we were talking about the randomest shit. Ended up inviting them to this like feminist group I was a part of, and I was just like, you guys want, like the space is like open all day and all night really, you guys want to just like chill there? They were like, yeah. So that became our spot. And even through that, I still felt like, I was like, damn it, friendship, bro. Like nothing matters. I love friendships. I'm in love with friendships. I think it's really easy to blame the world for the things that are going wrong in your life. The first time I made this video, before I started to remake it, I was very resentful of my friendship status with my friends and the lack of intimacy that I was, I guess, missing in my life. And right away I kept thinking about like, it's everyone's fault, because it's so easy to default to that rather than, I think, reflecting within. Because as someone who like loves friendships, like I'm like such a friendship girl, I was like, why is this feeling like labor? And like there's effort and there's labor. So if it's starting to feel like labor, I think it's time to step off and really kind of look within and see what else is going on. And right away, I think the internet is really good at giving you exactly what you want, giving a confirmation bias for you. It's like, oh, it's your toxic friends. My friends are not toxic. None of them are toxic. I think we have toxic traits that we're working on, like as a collective and as individuals too. But I don't think my friends are toxic to each other. I have a very solid group of female friendships that feel strong and good. But everyone is dealing with their own shit. Capitalism is capitalizing. Capitalism is exploiting. Capitalism is genociding. To continually be sat at the cusp of compassion, fatigue, powerlessness, but also this yearning and desire to have intimacy is a very confusing feeling. And maybe someone who's older than me can like weigh in and be like, nah, this is nothing new. I'm sure it's not. My ancestors have gone through it. My family probably have gone through it. Maybe have not processed it or have pulled stuff out of it in that way. But I think a couple of people probably know what I'm going through. And right away, I think I had this moment of like, I have to expel this. That's the thing. When one cup is unfulfilled and you jump into another cup, it's still gonna be unfilled because you have not changed anything about the baseline. And the baseline is me. I have to be good in order to show up and actually like see the intimacy that feels important. And like, don't get me wrong, there's like actual observations that feel true, and I don't want to gaslight myself, but yeah, friendships feel hard right now because everyone is holding so much. Like, the working class is working, all right? It's hard, it's labor even after you leave work. The stressing, the constant like obsessive compulsive thoughts about what could go wrong is it's insane. I saw the other day a video of this girl talking about how Instagram feels really weird and like everyone is like looking at my downfall. Like when I'm going on trips and stuff, nobody likes those photos or videos. Babe, people are off Instagram. Nobody is looking for your downfall. For the most part, nobody's looking for your downfall. I don't know where this mindset, I mean, I know it's capitalism and individualistic cultures where we continually think that evil eye is at the corner at any moment. And don't get me wrong, I come from a household where like evil eye was constantly discussed. It was a conversation that was like, don't move too much. If you move too much and you tell people that you're moving, then people are gonna do something about it. And that desire to still want people in your life, still want intimacy, but still not share the vulnerable, the hard, the secrets of your life, yeah, that doesn't add up. Those are contradictions, babes. A lot of y'all, not to blame it, and I've been there too. A lot of y'all are moving with this fake energy. Like you want people around you because you don't want to be alone. Like physically you don't want to be alone, emotionally you don't want to be alone. You want someone to like have a conversation with and stuff. You hear all these conversations of people saying like, we went to Miami and our relationship ended. Your friendship was not good. The basis of your friendship was not good, and it could not take another blow. The going to Miami without being good at yourself, and then also, and I'm talking about mentally and emotionally, and you're like emotionally regulated, without that being happening, and then also having a strong friendship and regulated friendships, and have like some pulse on like, oh, this is the person who regulates us, this is the person that brings us down. If you don't have those things within your friendships and you're not good, going to Miami is like the straw that broke the camel's back. Babe, it's not gonna work out. Of course your friendship ended over the fact that someone didn't end up paying like their share for their Airbnb, ordered too much alcohol and they put it on all of your names. Like, of course. So there's this like tendency right now to be like female friendships. Ew. I love friendships. I love female friendship. Female friendships like help me know myself, help me identify and orient myself and reclaim my autonomy, because they were calling me out, they were checking me, they were saying straight up, let's figure it out, what's going on, let's be vulnerable, continually. I kept, and sometimes I do, because that never really goes away, like, oh, like what do they want from me? Because if you don't grow up in a stable household where you were taught that like meaningful relationships, specifically friendships, exist, like chosen families exist, it's a no. That's a foreign concept. If you grew up in an enmeshed household where your relationship to your family members, like your immediate family members, is really strong and that's all you know, if you do something outside and you find intimacy, you find like really deep intimacy, you find like just fullness, you find love, you're gonna be confused, because you're like, where was this at my household? Because like, let me not, neglect, abuse, uncertainty, brokenness can coexist with love, but sometimes it gets real loud. It gets real loud, and you are saying like, oh, the priorities right now is trying to get us fed. The priorities are, we have our bathroom is working fine right now. Friendships, girl, you're stepping off the pyramid. You're not even on the pyramid anymore. People talk about this a lot with the romantic sexual relationships and like non-platonic relationships. Oh, like, you know, things are not gonna work out until you find the one. Why don't we have the same mindset for friendships? You are going to come across a lot of different types of people who are going to claim that they are your friends, and you're going to claim the same, and then eventually you're going to realize that you're not compatible, you're not a good fit, and it might be better for you to no longer be friends. You're going to continue to look for someone else. I mean, I hope that's what you're gonna do, because if you're gonna have one bad relationship with some person, if you're interested in a romantic sexual relationship, you're not going to be like, okay, that's it, I'm done with relationships. A lot of people don't, generally. Why don't we apply the same mechanisms and the same rules and values for friendships. It's because we don't value friendships, especially female friendships, as well as we value other types of relationships. That's just the truth of it. I think it's time for us to be honest. As someone who values my friendships like pretty up here, and I'm not like other girls, like truly, I could not give a fuck about romantic or sexual relationships because they're not what fills my cup. And that's weird because as someone who's about to turn 30 and saying like, oh yeah, sexual romantic relationships don't really fill my cup, people be like, what's wrong with you, girl? What I find meaningful, what I find really important is different than what you generally associate with what makes other women happy. And there's nothing wrong with that. How many of us are there on earth? A lot of us, I think. When I get frustrated, when I get upset about the status of the relationship not having enough intimacy or like feeling off, it's because I take it that seriously. Like, you know, some of y'all might be like, okay, girl, like it's not that deep. It's not that deep. Like, step off. It is for me. It is. I don't know what to tell you. I love friendships. I read this book, How to Be Alone Even If You Don't Want to. Even if you want to, or something like that. One of the things that she talked about is that people come from broken homes. People who come from questionable homes tend to latch on to friendships and not so much on like romantic or sexual relationships because they see those as like conditional, whereas friendships feel like a little bit more unconditional. I don't necessarily agree fully with that because there's not such thing as an unconditional loving, because there should always be some conditions like or values or some sort of consensual like understanding of like what I need from you and what you need from me. It's a contract at the end of the day. Every relationship is a contract, and not in this like pessimistic way, but like that's what it is. For us to feel as individuals and autonomous and respectful, there needs to be some sort of a contract. So I do feel like there's some conditions to every relationships sustainably existing and continuing. Sometimes I value friendships a little bit too much, and I get like a little existential over it because I don't value romantic and sexual relationships, not even in a similar way, but like even to that level. Like it's not even on that level. I don't value romantic or sexual relationships not because they're not valuable, but because for me, in the totem pole of things that I prioritize, they are in the lower tier. It's possible that I click with someone and I find them beautiful, and also I am like very committed to them, because for me there is a tendency to feel like us against the world, and I feel like my biggest anxiety comes from the idea that you're so isolated and dependent on this one person that it's like all your eggs in one basket type of relationship. And I mean, like, this might be controversial. I don't believe that that's the type of relationship I want or I crave or I go after. Like, if it happens and like that it ends up being one of the relationships that works out for me, and like it works with like both of our lives, it's compatible and all the things that we want, cool, love that, come through. But if it feels like work, like a lot, not effort, work, and if it feels like we're kind of both straining, it feels like we're fulfilling an expectation and checking off a checklist, I don't think I want that. And to me, as I think more about relationships, and I'm talking about like sexual romantic relationships, non-platonic relationships, there's like a tendency for me to think and process it in that context. In the context of like, oh, I'm doing this so that it's checklisted. I'm not doing this because I feel like, even like I've gone on like long-term relationships. Like the longest relationship I've had is like a year, and I have stayed with that person, and I felt like actively I wasn't there. And I was like, bro, like, I think it's time for us to dip. And I think I'm glad we did, because it's not fair for anybody for them to wait for you to figure things out. I feel like that's very selfish, and I don't feel like I should do that for someone else. I don't think that that person should also expect me to do that for them, and vice versa. Friendships feel different because there's a reciprocity and there's a tendency to have multiple, like, I mean, obviously someone's gonna be like, oh, polyamorous relationships or like whatever, but yeah, I've tried polyamory and it's not for me. I don't know what it is, but as soon as something becomes non-platonic, I just check out. I check out because there's a tendency to still feel like there is a valuing of that thing above everything else. Like, I don't know how to explain it. So I have, like, dabbled in like aromantic subreddits and like read books about like aromanticism and like all of that. But thinking back to like our ancestors and how they didn't have like a label for like everything, I'm no label out here floating, and that's fine. We're vibing. I do feel like friendships feel so important for that reason, because they were like the first marker of me understanding my autonomy. Like, as an individual, I have the tendency to focus on A, B, or C after the baseline of the hierarchy of needs is met. I have food, I have shelter, I have housing, I have warmth, I have comfort. Okay. We're going to work on ourselves. We're going to establish friendships and relationships that feel meaningful and important and communal. We're going to have hobbies. I don't know. Like, I don't believe that there is anything else in my life that feels important outside of those things. If my relationships feel meaningful, friendships, family relationships, there's boundaries, there's obviously issues and stuff, but if there's boundaries, there's open thoughts and communications out there, there is not fear, there's not an absence of intimacy. That's the other thing. I feel like these days, like since the pandemic, there has this, like, my friend and I were talking. Sorry, my friend is texting. This is my friend talking. To me, it sounds like what you are referring to is craving of intimacy or yearning of intimacy. I was like, bitch, what are you talking about? I'm an avoidant. And I was like, yeah, that's what it is. Before we get there, let's talk about the craving of intimacy. A lot of the friendships that I have been built around interest and like loving on each other and having the same values and feeling like we can commit to each other and give the effort to make this relationship work. Okay? And to me, all of those speak to intimacy. I feel like intimacy needs attention. Intimacy needs foresight. Intimacy needs, hey, what's not working here? And being able to talk about hard stuff. Intimacy needs conflict. And I'm not saying I need to get in a fight with my friends, but to me, every time I've gotten in a fight with a friend about something and I said, I do not like how you did that, and if we are able to resolve it and come the other side, I guarantee you 99% of the time, like, intimacy levels high. Skyrocket, stock levels so high. I love my friends. There are some friends that I love, but then we're not like showing the hard parts of ourselves. We're talking about the cute, quirky, fun things. Sometimes I would have a conversation, I'm like, damn, that felt like empty as hell. And the reason it felt so empty is because either me or the other person or either of us did not share some hard stuff. We did not say enough I don't know. I am not feeling so good today. Can we cut this short? I didn't like the way you said that. To me, there is this coda filling that we're doing these days with relationships so that we don't feel alone. A lot of the times that I spend with some of my friends do feel like obligations. The planning feel like an obligation. The getting there feels like an obligation. The doing the thing feels like an obligation. At the end of the night, I'm doing work, I'm journaling because I felt drained, empty. And I was like, maybe I'm depressed. Yeah, sometimes I am. But it should not be feeling like that for fucking like 3 years, bro. And at first I was like, yeah, maybe I'm going crazy, or my friend can like tell me like if I'm like acting up. So I was like, hey, like, is this something that's coming up for you? And she was like, yeah. honestly. I think it's just an autopilot way of moving through the world. We're surrounded by humans, and some people are so like isolated even when they're surrounded by humans. I feel that sometimes. I'm talking to someone and I'm talking to them, but I'm like talking to them outside of my body, and I'm witnessing the conversation outside of my body because that conversation does not feel real. Hey, how you doing? Oh, really? The weather be crazy out here. I love weather talk. I think it's one of the best conversations ever, especially as Midwesterners. I feel like that's one of our pride and joy. Like, love that. I'm claiming the Midwestern identity, even though I've only lived here for a little bit over like a decade. I'm a Midwesterner, okay? I be having a conversation about the weather. It doesn't feel right. And they're just like, yeah, I've started biking anyways. The genocide is hard, yeah. And I'm just like, what is this highlight? Giving me a little like elevator pitch of like your emotional status. And there's like an art to a conversation I love. I've met a lot of great people who are really good at it. I like to think that I'm okay at it. You know what? Fuck being humble. I'm pretty good at having a conversation with people. I feel like I can talk about anything. I can adapt to a relationship. Like I said, recovering people pleaser, so I have a lot of practice. Even if the conversation is the most dead, the most boring, I don't believe in those. But any conversation can be resurrected and brought back to life as long as both parties are willing. The fact that I am having a hard time gauging intimacy, not detecting my intimacy, what does that say? I've gone to like some parties, like events and functions and stuff. Like I need to drink. I feel like the fact that a lot of social activities, especially in the evenings in the States, are surrounded around alcohol is just, I don't know. It's fine, but it's like not fun. Like there's a lot of activities that you propose to people and they're like, yeah, like let's do it around alcohol. I'm like, I don't know, trauma dumping while high or while whatever on something. I don't think that's gonna bring us closer to intimacy. Oh my god, I said it. That's a one-time Chuck E. Cheese coin. I don't think you're gonna get the same material every single time you're going through a different type of emotional range and pathway, and all of a sudden you take whatever you drink or whatever, that's gonna bring a different part of you. And so when people are like, whoa, when I talk to them the next day, they're a completely different person. Yeah, because they are. That's not intimacy, babe. And I feel like there's a lot of events and activities that I go to that do feel like a cry for help. We're like scared that this is like fleeting. This is going somewhere. This person is gonna leave us. A lot of us are moving around, including myself, with a lot of trauma, a lot of issues that we haven't resolved, and projecting it in the activity or the event that we're like witnessing or being a part of. The issue is that I did not come here okay. The thing I don't want to neglect talking about is that capitalism, big hand, slaps us every day, burns us every day, so that we are not in close proximity. By setting up an urban planning that feels inhumane, that it's supposed to get you from your factory, aka your job, to your home, which is supposed to be in the suburbs, away from people, because the city is dangerous apparently. The fact that we are working just the lowest of wages, even though it's probably the highest it's been, but inflation is not catching up with it. And the fact that we have to have a designated time and space and energy, like bed rotting for being in your couch or sofa, not even wanting to hang out with people, because hanging out with people would come with like a bill of $70-$80. I get that. The fact that I do not drive because I choose not to drive. I choose not to have capitalism push me into making a purchase that feels unnecessary. I guarantee you, if I have a fucking car, I'm doing a road trip all by myself everywhere. It's gonna isolate me even further, because it's gonna dial up my resentment to like level 15. I don't want a life that is colored by resentment and defeat. I don't like a property that I have to watch out for, like this big ass machinery that I have to keep an eye on. And also the money, the cost of a car. I hear all these car notes and the insurance and getting your oil change, and like I don't even know. I don't know shit about cars. I've been pondering, I've been playing around with the idea of getting an electric scooter. That's something I've been playing with. I've been playing with that because that would get me around. I can carry my grocery. I can go see my friend and ask for sugar, even though I can go to the supermarket and get sugar. I want to go see my friend and get some sugar because she has some extra sugar. That's lovely to me. I want to have impromptu and serendipitous, because I think serendipity is what's also missing, because as a result of capitalism's like impact on us, we literally don't have serendipity, and true joy comes from serendipitous activities and events and just like spontaneity in general. And I don't think we have enough spontaneity, which makes everything such like a comfort level. Like you're not growing in that comfort zone. I think I was watching this video by this creator, and he was talking about how comfort zones are important because they allow you to take shelter when you don't want to be growing right now. Getting out of your comfort zone, which he called like growing zones, is like also necessary for you to exist. I don't think planning a calendar, knowing exactly what we're gonna do, reserving a restaurant, and or like knowing exactly, like literally beating to death what we're gonna do, designing a whole itinerary, I think that's too much comfort zone. And I understand why we have to do that, because you know life is hard, but I'm really interested in like instilling serendipity and spontaneity into my life and my week, so that I can start get reacquainted again with like intimacy and joy and growth, because what this is giving, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Yeah, so that's my thing. Those are my thoughts on friendships, capitalism, and other things. If you are feeling this way at all, or if this is coming out of left field for you, yeah, all of them, put them in the comments.